Figure out which one's less dirty.
That's what I was doing. Pull my shirt tail out.
These shirts don't like that.
I
They
know.
smear.
Calls the meeting order. All stand in place to flag for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll do my roll call. I think RJ will be here in a little bit, and Ashley can do hers. Britton Luther. Present. Tim Milton's present. RJ Dunn is on the way.
Okay. For council, we have Mr. Costello.
Here.
Mr. Somerville.
Here.
Ms. Brown. Here. Mrs. James, present. Mr. Weir.
Here.
Mr. Bose.
Here.
And Mr. Brown is not available tonight.
Okay. The purpose of calling this meeting, I apologize, the last council meeting you had, I was put on the agenda. I took time off from work, and I only had an hour and a half at the beginning of the meeting, and we was in other things that night, so I didn't have the privilege to discuss the topic that I had. So I apologize for that, but that's what happened. We're here tonight to discuss ambulance, the purchase of a house or other options, and we're here to discuss that. And like I said, I want to say one thing important, that July the 1st is coming. We have to have something done July the 1st. It's not fair to Park County to come in and we be unorganized and not have everything set up like it is. Everything so far, I will have to say that is almost went perfect. Park County has been super good with meeting with Jim Lease and Julian and people of Park County. They've been super good, and for them to come along at a time in this county that we could have major issues, I appreciate you guys responding and providing an answer to this problem. So I'd like to start the meeting tonight and talk about what I have. Every commissioner here can say what they have and what they suggest. And anyone in the council has suggestions or whatever, you're all welcome to make your suggestions. The only thing I ask in this is if you make a suggestion, you have a plan, is tell us about the plan, what it costs, and be very thorough in what you're promoting as far as an answer to this problem. I have no problem at the end of this meeting. When we got a meeting at 6:30. I have no problem. I talked to Ashley. We both in agreement that door can stay shut for a little longer. We're here to resolve something, and I think we worked very, very good on all this all through it, and there's no reason why we can't forward. Just to bring some things back into perspective, we as commissioners and also as a council, we've been working on this problem for years. I know that we formed an ambulance committee that we put in charge to decide where the new ambulance facilities were going. They came up with good recommendations. We had prints drawn up. We went for funding this year. Everything was in place for what y'all wanted to do. And when we went to get the funding for the Ready Grant, they had different direction they was going. And so we could be sitting here right now tonight with funding for 2 ambulance facilities. But it didn't happen. So therefore we are back up. We're with this situation that kept with ambulance. It has accelerated that issue. I think that now we have to come up with some type of solution. I know what all of our long-range goal is, to have 2 ambulance facilities. I think we all agree to that. That's our goal. But right now we're in a place that we have to do something to temporarily take care of that problem and make sure this transition is smooth. I had talked in the commissioners and put in some time in trying to come up with a solution. And one of the solutions that we had talked about is the purchase of the house. I've been there. I spent time over there. I've got information and looked up a lot of stuff. And the whole idea that I had in it is a smooth transition. Number one, the house is there. It's being used. It's currently housing those of the ambulance service. And if any way we could purchase that house at a reasonable price, and then turn around at the end of it, when we have time, is turn around and sell it and retain our money. Currently, this negotiation started, and any of you commissioners can correct me or help me anytime you want, raise your hand or whatever. But we started negotiation with Eric with the ambulance company, he came back and told us he wanted $140,000 for the property. Upon that, we began to check out to, none of us are licensed appraisals, none of us have that experience in real estate. And so we hired a realtor to look it up, and then also we had an appraisal done on it. That appraisal came back at $155 to $160. That's $15,000 to $20,000 higher than the asking price. With that, we proceeded, and I had been involved in it. Britton's been involved. RJ's been involved in some of it. We all been working on it. But the thing about it is there were some questions that came up. I believe that Mr. Costello had at the last meeting that I was not there to address, and so I would kind of like to ask him what questions he had, and we could address those issues if that's possible.
Well, I have more than questions. I got a speech to give, so
Well, I mean,
I
if
don't
we
know
can-
if you want that now or what.
We'll
but-
we'll try to keep it quick as we
Yeah, I
can.
know, but
And also, if you have any plans in place to take care of all the situations, but draw it first.
well, I mean, if anybody else has anything to say, feel free. I mean, I don't have to go first. So, does anybody else got anything they want to say? Or?
Well, I'm just going to say, I know we have the one recommendation,
We'll have another
But-
recommendation too later.
but I also believe that there's 8 other possibilities from what's been thrown out. So the question tonight is, what is the best option for the county for the price, and also trying to be deliberate and timely and trying to provide the necessary physical facilities for this operation to continue to take place without interruption. So we have a little bit of a dilemma.
Absolutely.
So back to you, Neil.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll just go for it then. My speech, and maybe other people on the council may or may not agree with it. They're my thoughts. They're my research. I believe it all to be true. If there's something not true, it would be minor, and I'm more than willing to be corrected on that. But this whole process to me started in 1999 when Transcare came to town. They didn't have any stations. The former ambulance company chose not to sell their stations to them, and they were without that for quite some time. The trucks sat out in the snow. I specifically remember going on calls with the fire department with these trucks in freezing cold weather. The trucks are freezing cold, there's snow on them, you know, here we go again. But that's what happened. So it's been a long time coming. Now, once they got established, there were some new stations that were still privately owned, that were, you know, they were offered and rented and used and whatever, but we still didn't have anything permanent that was a county-owned structure, and those came and went. They've been rented out. They're sitting. Someone else owns them now. We don't get to use those either. So those, you know, 3 or 4 buildings there we don't get to use. In 2019, I spoke with Bob Spence. He and I were on the council together at that time, and we had talked about using LIP money, the local income tax public safety money, to build ambulance stations to avoid that, because at the time the new ambulance company currently that's here now, they came to Vermilion County, and they too didn't have anywhere to go. So it was like a broken record. And ultimately they found some space. It took a while, but they did. And one of those places is the house that they're currently in Cayuga, which ironically, when we don't have any space, the only choice we have is the exact same house, which is kind of strange, but that's the way it is. But Bob Spence and I talked about building our own and using LIP money. It wasn't a very big conversation. It was a very short conversation, and it didn't involve much. Eric at the time was in the room, talked to us. He felt that it wasn't necessary for the ambulance stations to be owned by the county, that there was no advantage to the county for that. And here we are. He may or may not remember that. I do, because it was a profound statement to me personally. So I did remember that. But that's neither here nor there. So here we are today. We got a July 1st deadline coming up. It's on Vermilion County now to provide trucks, buildings, funding to provide salaries, with management assistance from Park County EMS. Thank goodness that they've offered to do that. Right now, at the south end of the county, we're using the hospital annex building, which is a former nursing home that I believe Union Hospital owns. Spent some money on it, and the health department's there. It's a nice place. The ambulance personnel's there. There's no place to park the truck, though, so we just bought a $300,000 truck. We don't have a building for it. Now, I believe that what I've been told time and time again is the ambulance won't allow, or the hospital rather, won't let a building get built there. It has to do with the FAA and helicopter landing pads and things like that. Maybe they just don't want to build one, or maybe they do, but that was the reason I was given. Fine, it's their property, I don't care. But nonetheless, we have nowhere to park it down there. So the deal there is that we could go to the Clinton Fire Station, which is a fairly new fire station. It's pretty large, has a lot of room available, and they've been kind enough to try to work out a deal, I believe. I don't know if it's final or not with the county.
Let me say something about that.
Yeah.
You're referring to that. I've been in contact with Scott Craig. I've been in contact with the mayor again the other day. We're still trying to get that done. Correct, Scott? A proposal, something we can look at. I haven't brought that
Okay.
because I haven't got it yet.
Okay.
But that is in the process.
Yeah, so I knew it was, but I was just saying in case it wasn't, I didn't want to say it was a done deal, but that was a solution to get the truck inside, out of the sun, out of the weather, and there's reasons for that. The trucks, obviously they're new vehicles, they need to be under cover from the weather, but also there are medicines, chemicals, things on the paramedic truck that has to be in some kind of climate controlled environment. Out in the sun doesn't do that, neither does out in the cold. So this was a solution there. There was going to be a rent each month. The county would have to pay X dollars, $1,000, $2,000, $1,500, $700. I don't know what the number is, but there's going to be
It's
rent.
$1,500.
$1,500 a month. So we're going to pay that until there's a solution at the south end of the county. Now, north, it's the house that we're discussing tonight. It was built, my best guess, 1960s, and it remains largely what it is now as it was when it was built. There hasn't been a whole lot done to it, I don't think, at least from people that live near it that talk to me about it. But that's neither here nor there. But I do know that we discussed it. The council was told it was a very nice house. It was great. It'll work. I went and did some research the next day, or the day after that, personally visited it. Didn't quite see what I was expecting, but that's, it is what it is. No big deal. The ambulance doesn't fit in the garage. I don't know if the new one will. The one that's there now doesn't, because it was outside. I think our new ones are maybe taller. Don't know. There's a spare garage there. It's a nice two-car garage, but it's irrelevant because we don't need a two-car garage to park cars in. So we don't need that, but it's there. There's an outdoor shed on the property. It's used for document storage, whatever. But there were, after I visited it, and actually before I visited it, I sent you and everyone on this council and the commissioners an email and said, what we've approved, going after this house. We said, let's buy it. And I said, but when are we going to get an inspection on it? We need an authentic inspection done on the house. At that time, there was appraisals done, but I didn't have any inspection done on it. I'm not a house person. I mean, I own a house. I work on my house. I think I know a little bit about it, but I can't inspect everything on it, and I didn't. I didn't even go inside. Everything I looked at was on the outside. I saw roofs that need to be replaced on the garage. The garage need to be modified. There were
All
trees.
those roofs are brand new except that one.
The one over where the ambulance will be
lean-to
going.
needs replaced.
That one's peeling up. It's in the pictures.
That can be tore down. I don't need
Or
it.
whatever. The one I went back behind the garage and looked at the one up there. I did not see a brand new roof. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I didn't see it though. It looked pretty bad to me actually. But if it's new, then I don't know what I was looking at on that one. But anyway, so there was. I said, what we need an inspection and what's it going to cost for at least the things I saw. I said the garage needs modified, the trees need trimmed, the gutters are falling off or whatever, full of
The
stuff.
gutters are not falling off. I went there personally myself and
There's
cleaned
holes in the soffit.
I cleaned them all. I was on the roof.
Okay.
I cleaned them out.
Okay, I'm just telling you what I saw.
But I personally went there and did it.
All right. Long story short, we got an inspection done on it. It's 54 pages. I read it. It had a lot of negatives in it. There were a lot of issues. I went over those issues at the last meeting. I think you had to leave. That wasn't my fault. It wasn't your fault. You had to go. But I went over all those issues, at least the electrical system. There was questions about the plumbing, the condition of the
What'd you come up with about the electrical system?
I'm sorry?
What'd you come up with about the electrical system?
What do you mean, what did I come up with about it?
Explain yourself. What'd you find?
I don't have to explain it. It's in the report. The report said there were negatives, there were neutrals, there were grounds hooked together, there were bonded things that were bonded in the sub panels that shouldn't have been bonded. They recommended replacement of all 3 panels because of their age and the type of fuses that they were using. There were photos of outlets that had burn marks on it. Anybody else look at it? I'm not the only
I
person.
just drove by.
Let me finish with that comment. You made a comment about the electrical. I personally went through the entire electrical system. What I recommended was put in an outside new meter base with a disconnect on the outside. There'd be multiple breakers in the bottom of that disconnect to provide new service to both the buildings. Also recommend putting a new 200 amp service in it and bring it up to code. The total of that was $4,600. We went back to Mr. owner and we said, we got a problem here. He reduced the price by $5,000 to take care of all the electrical.
Okay, well, there's one thing. So that was what I asked in the email. I said, what are we going to do with this place and what's it going to cost? And you said, whatever, tonight you started the meeting out and said, whatever you suggest that we do, you better have some numbers here and explain yourself. I was asking for these answers a long time ago and didn't get anything. And then when the report came out, it just backed up kind of what I saw. So that's one thing. The electrical system, okay. They were saying that the gas lines under the house were of a type that shouldn't be installed. They don't even sell it anymore because it's dangerous. That may have to be replaced. There were issues discussed with the HVAC system. At the time, the employees told me the AC didn't work very well, the central air. And then the inspector said that the furnace was very old and would probably be wise to replace it. So you can bet that when we buy it, it's not gonna work.
I got a picture I took off the furnace. It's 6 to 7 years old.
Okay, well, again, that's information that I just now received.
No, I don't.
I'm just going by the report that I was provided. It was actually given to Ashley, and then she gave it to me. That's how I got it. It was distributed that way. There was a radon report done. It has a little bit of elevated radon, so I guess remediation
Was that
fan
7?
system
Was that a 7 or what was that number?
I don't know what the number was. It was elevated above what the EPA says is safe to be around all the time, so there had to be some sort of a vent system or something recommended, which is probably $2,000. Shoot, $1,500 or $2,000.
Brett, when we did that next door, what was that cost out of the people from Indianapolis?
What was the radon results for this place?
And what was the cost of the radon over there?
It's just about 5, I think.
How much?
4 is the
No, I mean the cost. I was trying to give him
20.
some feedback.
$1,800, I think.
What was it?
$1,800.
Okay.
Okay. I look at the reports for the tax reports on the property, and I'm not making this stuff up. This is just what it says. It was sold in 2018 for $85,000. I don't know what advances or repairs or updates have been done to the house, but we are now looking at it assesses at 85.1. I know those don't always match with market value. I get that, but so that was the purchase price. 7 years later, it's $140. I'm looking at it as $20,000 in cost of repairs for everything that needs done to it. Termites in the garage. Is there anything that needs? When you get into this stuff, you always find stuff you didn't plan on. At least I always have in my own houses. With that being said,
I got a quote for
Yeah.
the termite for the belt building. It was $900.
okay. All right. On May 4th, 2022, there was an ambulance committee was formed. Commissioner Luther asked me to be on it, some other people, and I don't know who all was involved with it, but that's how I got on it. And the purpose of the committee was to develop locations and types of ambulance stations for the future. By February 15th of 23, the council had approved some funding to have an architect move forward with the ideas that this committee had come up with.
We didn't see the ideas though.
Well, I mean, our floor plans, you know, we came up with a rough floor plan, is what I'm saying. The council
I didn't
said,
see a rough floor plan before I voted on that, but as far as that part of it.
all right, well,
But
I don't know how,
you know,
it's been a while, so I don't know if it was brought here and shown or not, but there was. In May of 2023, so like a year later, the plans for the new station were finished, and it came in at an estimated cost of $1.5 million per station. That's what it came out to be. You know, I'm not sure that was the price we were hoping for. We were thinking $600,000 to $700,000, but again, it was a committee, and we are not familiar with architecture and engineering in that aspect. So it was kind of just put on a shelf. In the winter of '23, the commissioners asked the committee to reconsider the design, and we worked to reduce the cost and the size of this footprint. And the reason was that the ready grants were available, and the county was going to try to do that and see if they could get some money for that. So we took a machete and cut the plans in half, basically, but it went from 1.5 or 1.6 down to $1 million plus or minus. Now, or 1.2, I don't remember the exact number, but the council at that time, the council approved $600,000 to go as a match. And at the time, it was thinking that was just going to be one station, but I'm positive the council said that needs to be 2 stations for that amount, because we need 2. Yeah, so we could go back and look at that. But so the county spent, you know, I think the total bill was like $80,000 or $85,000 to develop the plans, which we don't even have the plans. We've got the elevations and the floor print. I don't have the actual full drawings to bid this with. I think you have to pay more.
Could I just ask for a clarification on that?
Yeah.
Does the auditor have a clarification on that amount that we spent on that?
That's where I got it from.
Okay. No,
For that specific
I wanna make
project.
sure I didn't know what that was for sure.
80 or 85,000?
84.6.
$84,600.
But you know, architecture, you know, it costs money. But that's the money. But the intent was that we're moving forward
Yeah.
with building ambulance stations, so it was part of the deal. But that's what was spent. I'm just
Shouldn't the
saying.
council have seen the plans and approved the plans before he went ahead and spent that money on an architect?
It's immaterial right now.
Yeah.
Well,
It's taking it down the
Is
rabbit
it?
patch.
Immediately after the plans were redeveloped, there were meetings with North Vermillion School Corporation and Town of Fairview Park. I went to both. Some others were with me at Fairview. I'm not sure, I can't remember, but at North Vermillion, I think the commissioners were there. And we came up with sites, and 1 acre sites near State Road 63 that was supposed to be the best location that the committee could come up with for 2 stations in the county, a 2-station solution. And we felt that was good locations. The Ready Grant, they were kind of signaling that these kind of projects were probably not going to be funded, but we, were hopeful, and it was applied for, and it was denied. So
That's not totally finished either, because there's another round possibly coming up. We will apply again for that for you all.
That being said, this year, at that time, I mean, when we were looking at these plans and the ready grants and everything, we had no idea what was around the corner. We didn't. The facts are what they are.
Where you was going to go? What do you mean? First location? Is that what you said?
No. Right now, what I just said, what I'm saying is when we were doing this, we had no idea that this issue was going to become right up front to us immediately after this. We were looking to build new stations in the long term, hoping that 2 or 3 years down the road we'd be building new stations. But as it turns out, a month later, we were informed that you might need these stations a lot faster than you thought. Okay, so here we are. But my first indication or notice that there's an issue and we're going to have to face this was March 15th of this year, when there was a problem with the current company and the way, whatever it was their business dealings were going through at the time. In April 15th, we had a council meeting, and I believe you advised us, Mr. Yoakum, at the meeting, kind of what was going on. And that on May 13th, the council agreed that there was a house to be purchased and that the commissioners could begin negotiations on that. On May 17th, I said, what are the plans for the house, what do we need to do to it, and what's that gonna cost, in an email. On the 6th of June, we got the inspection report. On the 10th of June, we had a meeting, which was just our last council meeting, to discuss it, to pass the ordinance to purchase the house, at which time, after the report was handed to us, the inspection report, the council didn't quite feel at the time it was a wise purchase. On the 10th, I was advised that there are no other options that the commissioners had at the time. June 10th. Okay,
And Neil, if I could interject on that too, before the commissioners came before the council for the house approval, I did bring Brent Lewis and Highland Township, Perrysville Fire. They did have a second option to put the ambulance in Perrysville. And Brent, if you wanted to speak on that, you could
Well,
tonight. But I mean, that was an option, but it was voted down. And
I was told in writing there were no options. So, I mean, if that was
Well,
happening...
I mentioned that to you that one night before the meeting because I wanted you to realize we had a time deadline and we have to make a decision. That
And
was
even-
my
Well,
intention.
that's a pretty,
Well, and even
this is
Neil,
your option,
you know,
make a decision.
Well, and
That's
even
the-
last week after the council had, tabled that, me and you had spoke, Ashley had spoke, I'd spoken to some other council members, and even Brent had called us and said, hey, I have a contractor that's willing to fix this and have this ready by the first week of July, and I shared that information with you and with the other commissioners as well. So I believe Brent is still here to say that option is on the table as well. But I'll let him. It was $50,000 to renovate it, and Brent, correct me if I'm wrong, you were willing to, in the beginning it was the county was going to foot the entire $50,000, but now I believe he's willing, if the council still appropriates the $50,000 for lit tax, that he would give $25,000 and then use it out of the lit, so it would be a $25,000 cost. Well, 50 still, but 25 and 25.
And then if we move on somewhere else, it still serve a purpose for them?
I believe so. Brent, would you like to discuss? I mean, yeah, I think, and that's where I was going with it, is that, even if the county invests in that, we're investing in a local fire department that they will be able to utilize in the future.
Well, can I say one? Well, go ahead, Brent.
Yeah. I've already talked to our contractor that gave us the bid. He said he is willing to drop absolutely everything that he's got going on and start on it. He can have it finished within a 3-week time frame. So the longer we wait, the further it's going to get pushed out. Now, like I was telling Neil, I've told RJ, we would be willing to forego, part of our lit money in order to do this. Now, the lit money that we had that slated for replacing equipment, updating things to be able to provide service for the county. But at this point, I feel this is a little more necessary and more important to get taken care of so that we're not losing coverage on the north end of the county and you're not having a brand new ambulance sitting outside. Now, I've checked our station, I've looked everything over, I've talked to our insurance company, I've talked to the state fire marshal's office, talked to everybody involved to make sure that we're within standards of what we need to be, and we are. We do have room to house an ambulance indoors there.
What are you gonna do with that 50,000?
What's that?
What kind of upgrades are you talking about doing to your
You're looking
station?
at turnout gear, air packs.
No, he meant
for
like
the
for the
update of
building
the facility.
construction.
For the
Oh,
construction?
For the construction, you're gonna
Yes.
have a new HVAC for that side of the building, because it's not air conditioned currently.
Okay.
You'll have 2 bedrooms put in, living quarters put in, shower and bathroom put in. Basically a full renovation of that side. So you'll
Does
have 2
electrical and
bedrooms.
plumbing have to be involved, all like electrical total,
Electrical,
because there's
plumbing
probably
will
not
have to be
much
out
over
there
there right
because there's
now.
not on that side, so I'm sure they're probably gonna have to cut concrete, move plumbing around because it's on a concrete floor. So I mean, he's got a lot of work ahead of him to update in a short amount of time, but he's assuring us he can get it done.
So it's on the north side of the building?
Be the west side of the building.
West side.
Far west side.
Brent, you were on the ambulance committee as well. In citing the ambulances, why would not Perrysville have been cited originally with the ambulance committee when it was looked at, when all this was looked at previously?
What we were originally trying to do at that point was keep it a little bit further south, so we're not moving it further away from the center of the county.
It was only 2-3 miles outside of town anyway.
The original location we picked was just north of 800 North. That is 3 miles south of Perrysville. So you're looking at a 3-mile change between where it would be at the station versus where it would be at there.
And
With the
time-wise?
station at North Vermillion, you're gaining another 3 or 4 minutes going back south. So I mean, you're splitting hairs. With it being access to State Road 63, you're not going to gain or lose but 2 or 3 minutes.
And
being
this
a feeder
isn't
location.
setting this as a permanent location, from my understanding. This is the temporary until we can get a permanent building built at that North Vermillion facility, is my understanding of this situation here.
That was my
With respect
understanding,
to
yes.
most of these alternatives at this
Right.
point. We looked at 17 different alternatives, of which this is one of those. And it was decided at the meeting the other night that the distance for it compared to we gotta remember this is a regional, we're looking at a regional ambulance service at this point in time. We're not looking at strictly a Vermillion County ambulance service. So we're looking at the position of our county ambulances and the Vermillion County ambulances and being able to respond accordingly with those things as well. Doing that, it was decided at that point that Perrysville was a little bit too far out. Yeah, it wasn't a preferable location, and not because of well, it looks like we're rebuilding the station, but because of time, regardless of the building and the renovations that would be completed. So there was a reason for it not to be selected at the last meeting, commissioners meeting.
And that was the regional
This is
view.
looking at the
The
regional
view.
concept of where things should, where we would like for them to be anyway. Or as
Temporarily.
close as we would like them to be.
That's a small sacrifice for a temporary solution, I would say. I mean, being 3 or 4 minutes more out, I mean,
Yeah, 'cause I mean, the highway speeds for the ambulance are governed at 82 miles an hour. Most of them are when you're running lights and sirens. So your travel time between Cayuga and Perrysville is about 5 minutes, 6 tops. With the road construction, you're gonna have a little bit there. So you're gonna shave about 2 minutes, 3 minutes off if it was further south versus where it would be there,
How
at
many-
least temporarily, until another station.
How many trains run through Cayuga where this house is on the other side of the tracks?
Several.
Well, and Brent, where you're located at in Perryville, you're right on State Road
You're
32.
directly
Minimum
on State
four
Road
then,
32, so
probably.
you're
So
a
there's a delay.
mile off of 63.
Yeah.
But you're on a state road, so even in the wintertime, it's plowed, salted.
It's 6.5 minutes from the intersection of 63 and 32 to 63 and 234, driving the speed limit. I did it the other day.
And what
Not
is
very
the,
far.
what are the facilities gonna be used once the county abandons them or moves on from them?
We will still use them as they are set. What we typically do if we have inclement
As
weather
of
coming
what?
in, as far as severe weather, storms, if we have high heat times, we use the station as a cooling center. We have cold weather coming in, we use it as a warming center. If we have power outages, we can house people there. We staff people on station when we have inclement weather. At that point, those rooms would be used that the people could actually sleep on station instead of having to sit.
Will
up
there be
there.
a reimbursement to the county for that over a period of time or not?
Do what?
Would there be reimbursement to the county over time for that or not?
No.
Did you have any intentions to have full-time, 24-hour staffing at some point, like some other fire departments do in the
Maybe
county?
at some point, yes.
So that would be
Depending
used for
upon what we
that?
can get
Have you
situated at that
considered
time.
fire EMS districts? Has that been considered up north at all?
Not to my knowledge.
It has in the south. Why not in the north?
Don't know. No one's ever discussed that.
As far
It
as
seems that-
additional monthly expenses, do you anticipate like additional amount that we would owe for monthly for utilities and things like that?
Yeah, I'm sure there would be, because if we're going to be, if we house the ambulance in the east end of the building, we typically keep it fairly cold, enough that it's above freezing. But if we're doing that in the wintertime, it's gas heated.
Okay.
So that would be a
Would-
cost that would be incurred. The
So-
electricity would be extra.
After the 25,000 from us, the 25,000 from your lit money, then our additional monthly expenses would only be like the increase that you would incur, is that correct?
Yes,
Okay.
you have basically our insurance increase for having people on station, it would be minimal.
Okay.
But the wear and tear on the
Utilities.
building, utilities,
So not necessarily an additional rent, but just covering the expenses that we would incur.
yeah.
I think that one of the main things is we need to always consider is what's best for the county as far as response time.
Which brings
I
me
know-
to,
You what?
I said, it brings me to another point, but I'll let you finish.
The thing, I want to stay in Cayuga, someplace in Cayuga. I think it's, that if you go back to the original design, and I think in 1985 when it was started, or back when it was, they called for one in Cayuga and one in Clinton. I think that in developing this for working two counties together, the access of the highway right there to go into Park County, I know I've talked to Julie about that, is very valuable. But like I'm saying, I think that we need to stop and figure out how does this affect. If you take in, I think, 2022, there's roughly 330 calls at North Ambulance. That's what, roughly one call a day.
in 2022,
in 2022. We pulled it up today.
we had 308 calls, I do believe, on our department in 2022. That's not counting
I'm saying 2022. Brett, you pulled that up again.
What?
In 2022, there was 330 calls.
We had 330 transport, or whatever it was, 320 plus or minus transports with the ambulance.
Okay.
There may have been more calls, but they were either called off or not non-transport.
Or is it we
SRO.
experienced as of lately having to call in either Warren County or Fountain County to come and transport?
But I think it's important to remember this is a temporary solution.
Right.
I feel like we are at the.
We've got the ideal locations to build the new ones. That's
Yeah,
what
we've
we
done
need to be
that.
doing.
At the schools, right?
That would be the ideal spot for it. You're close
At
to
North
the-
Vermillion?
Yeah. Close to the state road access.
Yes.
North and south, you're close to 234. You're about 3 minutes further south than what you would have been at the original location, which for us is not that big a deal. Our response times are fairly good in our department. So we
How fast is the council looking to be able to fund a program, given the latest?
To be honest, we expected to have plans ready to go by now for ambulance
So the
facilities.
plans are.
But those
plans are not
plans were great
acceptable.
for grant money, but right now, we can't afford to build $2 million into buildings for $1 million apiece. We need to come up with something that is fiscally responsible and usable and reasonable at this point to cover what we need to be doing. And we don't have those plans right now. I think we can achieve those in a short amount of time if needed. But right now, we have to come up with a solution temporary. And at least I look at it, if we're putting money into a property,
Why not
whatever option we
benefit?
pick, does it benefit somebody in the county by us? Does it benefit a taxpayer of the county? This house in Cayuga does not benefit a taxpayer. It does not benefit a fire department. It benefits no one who actually lives here by us giving them money.
Well, I
There's a
think-
resale value of this. If you talk to Doug Waters, who's done the real estate for this county for his quite a respect.
No one knows what the market's gonna be in 2 years. It could crash.
Was my understanding that it has to be sold at auction, didn't somebody say that?
Yes.
Well, when does the government ever get their money back at an auction?
We don't have to spell it auction.
You don't?
And John, can you, one of your attorneys clarify on that?
The statute says if we sell real estate worth more than $1,000, the council has to pass an ordinance setting terms and conditions of sale.
You said it.
We have, there'd be public bidding for it.
Do what?
I think, it doesn't say, you could specify whatever, but it doesn't say you have to auction
No,
something.
auction, public bidding is what I would, you mean by that, public bidding, which is essentially an side by side.
Yeah.
I would echo what Ashley said. I mean, if the council doesn't want to purchase that, you know, the house in Cayuga, like I recommended the Perryville location earlier, and I would still stand by that. But if the council would like a Cayuga location, I'd sent Neil and the commissioners information. Walker Farms, which is just west of North Vermillion Elementary, had offered up their new duplexes that they just built. They're ready to be moved into. Neil or Ashley, did they tell you a price? Because I forget what he told me.
He said $2,000 a month,
That's
so
what
if
it
we don't
was.
get the new stations built soon, that's gonna be 25 grand there gone.
Yeah, so I mean, he did offer that up too.
No
If
facility,
I mean, he said, he didn't say that's the number, that was the thought.
yeah,
Okay, so it's not in writing, but that's
yeah,
what he
There's
said.
not an ideal location for anything that we have right now. The Cayuga house is in Cayuga, however, it's behind the tracks. It needs work done. It doesn't have the heated garage. Perry's, it doesn't have a heated garage
Doesn't fit the truck.
for winter, and it's not tall enough at this time. So work needs done on it. Perrysville needs work done. It's a little bit farther out of the way than we would like, but it is a temporary solution. The Walker Farms is a little bit more than we want to pay per month, and it also does not have a heated garage. So we're in this balance where Perrysville does have the heated garage for us in the wintertime. How quick can we get a permanent facility done?
Can I give you another option before we get too far? We've talked to Eric with the current place, and he's willing to lease it for a year for $1,500 a month. If you go that route, everything is in place. It gives you more time to make decision. I mean, there's a lot of things here, moving parts that you are not.
He
you
doesn't
don't know what
intend
they
on
are.
selling it?
Do what?
I mean, if we're leasing it, he doesn't intend to sell it? Doesn't he want to sell it? I don't know.
He just gave us that option. We're trying to figure out some way to do this.
Tony Anna's worked with us for the last 2 years here very well. there's some reason there's animosity with Ileana or with the Shaughnessy's, and I don't know, quite understand
With
it.
who?
And everything
Like
that
me?
I've done.
It's got nothing to do with that.
Say you.
Well, you said there's animosity. I mean, I didn't know
There appears to
who.
be
It's got nothing to do with that.
I don't have any.
Let
The
Britton
issue-
finish what he's saying. Was you finished, Brett?
They've worked with us very well throughout the last 2 years. Every time that we've asked them to provide something, including the Board of Health, or the Department of Health over, they gave the rooms over to the Department of Health. We've asked them to continue with their services for the last 2 times. There's been no increases in their pay or in their income, I guess, revenue from that. They've done us right for quite a while here. And same thing with this here. When I went back and asked about the lease potential there, he said I would prefer to sell the house, and it was their intent to sell the house, still their intent to sell the house, that he would lease it to the county for $1,500 a month. So that is an option on the table. I'm not saying it's
So,
to give me, but it is something, if we don't want to own property, it is something that can be done there, but there still have to be improvements made.
with the lease though, what about the electrical? Who fixes that? What about the garage? Who fixes that? I guess, how does that factor into the lease agreement? Is he willing to put that kind of money in the property, or is that something we'd have to do on
No,
addition?
the $1,500 is just for the property. Any improvements we make to the property are in addition to that $1,500.
Well, actually, I would say as well, if I could circle back to the Perrysville option, $25,000 plus 25 out of their lid, and if we lease it, it's 18,000 a month, or not 18,000 a month, I think 18,000 a year for the lease. $25,000 investment is going into our local community, improving our fire department, and when we leave that facility in 6 months, a year and a half, we have helped improve our community with funds.
If we chose the Perrysville option, can we set up some kind of station, maybe towards the jail, here at the courthouse, to give the ambulance guys some options of, hey, in the middle of the day, if you don't want to go all the way back to Perrysville, if you get called at 36, can we stop here in the middle of the day and have something set up in the basement maybe for them? Or somewhere over, I don't know if we have any room left at the bank building, or somewhere close to the jail, to give them some kind of reprieve without having to maybe go back and forth if they feel like it is a bit
Well,
too
I mean, if they're not gonna sleep, I know I reached out to Cayuga, they may be willing, if it's just a hangout spot during the day. That would be a question for Chief Wilson, but that would be an option.
I mean, can we try to find maybe a location that would work for partially during the day, and then at least have a facility that they can like call home base?
Julie, do you have a response to any of this, what's being said? Okay.
So I haven't heard anything on Hillsdale Fire Department. So what do we know about the Hillsdale Fire Department, which is
well,
right at 36?
I spoke with the Help Fire and Rescue. The Hillsdale Fire Station's available but it would need the same type of renovation work that, say, the Perrysville Fire Station
Right.
would. I spoke with Tim Wilson about the Cayuga Fire Station. We spoke at length about the community building that's attached to their fire station, the possibilities of something in Cayuga, because it is true that, I mean, it would be ideal to have it near that area. But with their fundraising efforts and just the fact that they got a truck in every square inch of the building, they didn't have the room indoors anyway, so there was no advantage there. So the Hillsdale station was an option, but the other issue with that was it created an additional issue on the north end, you know, so if you're putting it actually south of 36, then you've got extended time. Now it's nice if you need to get to Rockville real quick, or Montezuma, that'd be nice, but it didn't help Perrysville too much. It really didn't help Cayuga too much. Newport not so bad, Dana not so bad. I think forget about, we talk about the far extreme ends of the county. There are communities in the center. Newport and Dana are a lot of people, so you know. But that's the deal with that. They were open to it. We had, like I say, it was just general discussions, and it was positive. But there's just as much work to do there. Another option too was somebody had mentioned to me that the fact that the public library here in Newport was the former school was, and I don't know anything about it. I've never been in the library, so I'm speaking without firsthand knowledge here, but I was advised that it's pretty nice. There's rooms available. It could possibly be used. Somehow there's restrooms, men's and women's restrooms in there. There's no place to park a truck, but could a carport or an RV port type structure function to keep the truck in temperature check? I don't know. That was mentioned also, and it's just right down the road here. So I've looked in Newport, drove around. I don't really see any. There's buildings all around the town square. I don't know what's in them. There's no for sale signs on them. I don't know who owns them. So Newport would be a good idea too, but again, I don't know what's here. So again, it's the
We got a time crunch.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I haven't had, and I've been on the phone. I've talked on the phone. I've called contractors, seen how quick contractors can build new stations. Design build type companies like Morton Buildings, for example. I've talked to them. FBI structures. They can do it. But it's can it be done for $300,000 per station? Yeah, you're not going to get what our plans show. It's going to be different. But
So-
it's.
Excuse me.
You're fine. Go ahead.
At our last meeting, the idea of the jail, county jail.
Yeah,
popped
so
up.
the other option was the jail. There's meeting rooms, there's office rooms, there's shower facilities that can be used by the ambulance personnel. And I don't know, I've never worked a shift with an ambulance, so I don't know. Do they take a shower on every shift?
No.
Do they just wait until it's, do you do it when you have to, or do you do it every day? I don't know. It depends on who it is, I guess, and what they've gotten into. But they do have that. They don't have sleeping quarters. So another option was, I had checked with the companies that rent the mobile office units that construction companies use, such as when they built the jail, like Dispatch was in one for a year or whatever. I think it was 12 feet wide by 60 feet long. It looks like an office trailer. It's got stairs and everything. There's a room on each end, which would be bedrooms. There's a wide open center, which would be office / whatever, TV room, day room. I think to bring it here in a week, takes a week to get one, set it up, and then you keep it for 6 months, if that's what you want, assuming you're building something in the meantime. And then they come pick it up and take it away. That's around $16,000 to $20,000, depending on your options and what you get, how big it is, or how many. Do you get furniture with it? Do you not? Do you get bars on the windows in a bad neighborhood? I don't think the jail's too bad of a neighborhood. Wouldn't have to get that, but. Anyway, that was an option, was that there would be a combination of a mobile unit that was brought in that we would have to pay rent for, and then a combination of that plus the jail facilities, however that would work. And I have not had time to visit the jail to see that. I believe someone has, but I haven't.
Like I said originally, my primary concern is not just our town. It's for all of the surrounding communities in that end of the county. To my experience and from what I've seen, it seems like the northern end of the county gets neglected on a lot of different things. Which, take or leave it, that's fine. But the response times to go up there can be ridiculous, especially if we're waiting on a truck to come to from the south end, which I heard was talked about stationing both trucks at the south end, which is unreasonable, unacceptable by any level. We just had a call this last Saturday. If we would have had to have waited for a truck to come from the south end of the county, that gentleman would have died on scene. I am 100% certain. There's no reason for that. My other concern with not having the availability in the north end of the county, be it Huga, Newport, Perryville, wherever, if we have to continue calling on other counties to cover us for mutual aid, Warren County, Fountain County, then at some point they're either going to say, no, we can't do that because we're shorting their county because we're ill prepared, or we need to start paying them out of the tax base that we're not using to cover that end of the county. To me, that's only fair. If they're using their money, their expenses, their equipment, their staffing, they're paying for it, we're not. That's not fair on their end.
If, one other point, your point's well taken on that, by the way. If in the future, currently the county's working on an I-74 corridor project that would hopefully turn out business and maybe residential growth in that area because the interstate's there, and that's important. If there ever was a need for a third ambulance to be housed somewhere, could it possibly be put back there, you know, with staffing and
See that being a
stuff?
possibility.
I mean, you may have to build another bay or something like that ultimately, but with the rooms and things, you know, so if there wasn't ever a need for a third ambulance solution, that could be a possibility. Because if that end really takes off, you're going to have, you know,
Well, we have additional
substantially more
property there
people.
that has buildings on it currently, but if that was the case, we may be able to work something from that angle.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that would be
But-
another, I'm not saying that would be 100% permanent for future, but it would be another temporary measure for 6 months or a year or two
would be available
until you could
anyway.
afford another station, but
Well, Neil, to piggyback off that too, you know, the county for years has talked about response times and what it would look like. This would be a good trial run for having that ambulance in the north end as well at Perrysville. Because we've talked about it before on committees that, hey, what would it look like? Well, we could kill two birds with one stone here. We could help update Perrysville's facility. It serves a need to the community, and then we could take that data back in 6 months or a year and say, hey, this did reduce, you know, times here, and there wasn't that big of a difference in some of these areas.
I'm pretty confident that what the committee came up with on positioning with County Road 600 North at the North Vermillion property, and we also chose town of Fairview Park, the very north far side of the town of Fairview Park, along 63, at least preliminarily, they were in favor, of positive review of that. 63 is key to traveling fast in this county. And when you're right on it, you can go anywhere fast as you possibly can. It's as fast as you can possibly do it, is to be on that highway when you get a call. East and west, north and south, however you want to look at it.
Is
So
that a unanimous decision on the ambulance committee? 'Cause
I don't know
think
of
it
anyone
was.
that didn't. I didn't hear
Can't
any
say
argument.
any of us disagreed. We also come up with a third option there at the Rise, right on 63.
Yeah, that was a 3-station solution. Was going to
That's
have
right.
one there, but
Yeah.
I didn't get any. I mean, if you enter 63 right there at the South Vermillion intersection, you can go to Blandford, Clinton. You're basically in Clinton, Fairview Park. You know, you're 3 or 4 minutes closer to Dana or Hills. You're definitely closer to Hillsdale. I mean, you could be there in 6 minutes, 7
Close
minutes.
to
maybe.
Universal that way.
Huh?
Close to Universal that way.
Yeah, I mean, it's wherever you want to go, but I didn't have any objections, or there weren't any negatives to it. We're pretty.
Well, regardless, whatever the county decides, I would like to say I appreciate Brent Lewis and Perrysville Fire Department stepping up and offering this solution, and Tony Jacobs Construction being willing to pull off of any job to help the county if this is a route we go. So I want to say thank you for that.
One last thing too, there was also the possibility of the former fire station of the Newport Chemical Depot site, which I was told that it's not been used for many years and would need some renovation work done there too. So again, we're kind of in that situation, is how do you get that done by July 1st? I don't have the answers to that one.
Yeah, but I was down there for the mushroom hunt. I went around there and looked at that building. It needs an extensive amount of work to be
Yeah,
used.
it may be gone.
It may be better off to start over.
As far as the south end, does that hospital have adequate living quarters?
Yes.
I mean-
It has 7 rooms there, of which 4 will be currently being used. To that point, the hospital did agree when we did the lease agreement that we could put a garage there.
Well, that's
It
what-
was cleared through the FAA to be able to do that as well. Plans had been developed, preliminary plans have been developed to put a garage there by Lee Leanna, but those are not necessarily available to us. But, yeah,
They did offer to let us build a bay though at the hospital.
it was discussed and it was.
They did, and he just said it again, yes. That could be done.
Is there anyone that, I mean, I don't know where, I guess I should say, I have no idea where I got my information in, because I was told by several people that we could. I'm glad that we could. If we could, that'd be great. But I was told, forget about it, you can't do it,
Yeah.
multiple times, so.
As part of the negative, I did that first one, so yes, we can do that. Per first person.
Well, that's excellent to know.
And the hospital agreed
I
to
don't-
allow us to, but there are nuances there too, because we don't own the property, so are we gonna, I mean, there's other considerations besides that too.
The hospital's not interested in building on to the building for the lease or anything to keep that?
They'll allow us to do
Oh,
that.
yeah,
I don't think
yeah.
they'll do it at their cost. There is consideration in the future that they were gonna build something over there, but maybe it can be, anyway, that's not been approached
Yeah, and I don't
yet.
know, what does it take, if you put like a temporary, like a RV carport type structure up that's nice, that's fine, but will it
It'll
work?
be heated,
I don't
though.
know. Yeah, you're not gonna be able to heat it when it gets cold, it's gonna be getting cold soon, guaranteed. The heat will probably be okay, but I don't know, again, it's larger buildings tend to stay cooler.
That could be a permanent
For
solution.
$29,000, you can
For the south end.
have a building, the materials.
So as far as the North Station, though, like, so what I've heard tonight, we have the Cayuga House, Perrysville, the jail with temporary trailers, Walker Farms, and then the Hillsdale location.
If you go through those, each one of those, tell me what fixed costs you got in any of them. Tell me where you got fixed costs with no trouble.
That's what I said, none of them are
Net-
perfect.
I don't think any of them's fixed cost, I mean,
But none of, there's
You
either
do.
location, or it's not got a garage, it doesn't have, most of them come back to not having a heated facility for the winter time. And we have right now no guarantee that we have a permanent location by December.
Well, we're looking at July the 1st, of something being resolved. I know we're all talking about different things. We're
And-
talking about things with a whole bunch of moving parts.
Is there anything else on the house that you want to like comment on? Because right now it is listed at $135 to buy it, and he's going to basically give us the money to fix the electrical, and then
Right.
we'll have to be the rest of the updates on our own. Or we could lease it for the $1,500 a year, and then also
$1,500 a month.
I'm sorry, $1,500 a month, and
With
then
no problems, everything's there, smooth transition.
But it
there's
still
no-
needs the required updates of every other facility as well.
you
because
can't
it
move,
doesn't
yeah,
have the garage.
you can't move employees in without doing like the updates with the radon or whatever that.
Yeah, you can do that. You need to do research on that.
So, as far as the house goes, that is the biggest one on the table
It's
right
a
now.
simple situation.
Is there anything else, information on the house that you would want to clarify on that?
There is a continuity of service and
That's very valuable.
continuation of service that is already in place there, along with the radio systems and the familiarity of the crews with the facility as well. That's one reason why I was gravitating toward that facility, is because we can immediately go into that. Do we have some other things that we need to be done? Sure, but they can be done over time.
Temporary for a year.
But it's a continuity of service that we can continue
Very
with.
valuable.
The other thing is, regardless of what has been voiced tonight, Doug Waters has indicated that most likely the facility will sell for at least the amount that the county would invest in it, and depending on time, maybe more. But given the market in the Cayuga area, for rent and or sell, there's not enough housing available there now.
What if it doesn't sell, do we keep it?
There's some other options to it if we decide to do that, but I don't think that's the intent.
No, I know
But if we do, there's options of the possibility of it being safe house, providing continuity to families that have need to be housed, protection. If it doesn't sell, it doesn't sell, but there's still a value there.
I mean, being involved in real
Take
estate.
the 140,000, say we add another 20, so it's 160,000. So we're going to rent something, we're going to buy something else. Basically, if we do that, we put our investment elsewhere, it means that we can effectively reduce the price by $40,000. If we can't sell a $160,000 piece of property for $120,000, I'd be surprised. And that would be a break even compared to what we're looking at so far. When we looked at this before, we were looking at the recommendations of location with the regional concept of being able to do that, and this being, again, a short term, something 3 years or less, depending on what came about as far as the permanent stations, if you want to call it that. There's still other issues that are outstanding with that, but we won't get into those tonight. But that's the reason that this one shined a little bit more than having to actually build something on the come and then move people into the facility and still be able to respond and by the time frame that we're looking at. Everything had been clicking along up until the time that this one apparently has not been acceptable because of the purchase. If the purchase is acceptable, there is a lease option as well. So,
I would still circle back again to say that I believe the Perrysville option is the best option for the county, especially fiscally. Looking at it, you're looking at $25,000 versus $135 plus or minus the updates. And again, you're updating a local fire department.
That's right.
And to, piggyback like Kelly said, we're updating a local fire department, but we keep talking short term. And if this is short term, then what is the issue with spending less money of the taxpayers to update a local fire department and then building the bays like we've talked about? If we're really going to save the taxpayers money, that makes the most sense.
It does.
I mean, that.
So you'd rather have it moved out of Cayuga to Perrysville?
Tim, at the end of the day,
I asked you a question.
No, I voted against the 2-to-1. I was at that meeting. I voted 2-to-1. You know my stance. I've said it repeatedly. These council members know my
still assuming that
stance.
we can't sell the property because we're recovering 100%. Most likely, I believe that we'll cover, and according to the realtors, we will cover 100% of our.
I don't think anybody would like to see it moved out of Cayuga.
Well, we keep it in Cayuga, that's what I want to
Well,
That's
I'm
our
not-
ultimate
I'm-
goal, though, is to put it back in
There is no
Cayuga. This is the
cost.
temporary solution that we have to come up with right now.
And I think the best temporary solution is Perrysville because I can't vote or be in favor of spending $135,000 plus or minus.
The ultimate,
Not if we rent a
the
place,
council will
it's-
have to agree to pass an ordinance to buy the house. So without the ordinance, we cannot buy that house.
You don't have to for a lease.
Okay, is there any interest in doing a lease on the house?
Does the council have to approve a lease? If the commissioners have the money to lease it now, does the
You have
council?
to fund it, though.
We'd have to fund it. So
Yeah,
ultimately,
fund
it'd have to
lease.
go through us again for at least money.
Well,
Then we
that
still
money
have
that,
the repairs to do.
You're
And
correct.
build a
What
garage
happens
probably.
if the IRS goes after the property?
I just gave you a title search
IRS.
done by Henry annually. It's all there. It shows that everything will be taken care of the day of the sale. He will be here, he will actually go
We're
down.
If you
leasing.
lease it.
leasing.
Okay.
I mean, if you leased it, he has problems. If they start going after everything, would they kick us out? No, but
Then we have nothing.
you know.
That's a separate entity, but
From information that I have gathered here tonight, and you do a so-called an analysis on it, a fishbone analysis, or whatever you want to call it, there are more negatives in buying the Cayuga property than there is funding the $25,000 at the Perrysville. I mean, the negatives are no garage, needs repairs, wrong side of the tracks, we'll have to resell it, $140,000 less. The good thing is I like, and we do need to consider continuity of service. I think that's key. And I know from the run times that we looked at with Mark O'Hare, I don't have any problems with it being in Perrysville because it was only 3 miles outside of where we were looking at originally to put it before we moved it south to the high school. Perrysville, as RJ says, we're investing in the community. When I have 3 weeks, I hope it probably may be a little bit more, but I think in a month period of time you could do it if you dropped everything. I just see too many negatives at Cayuga right now, and I think if we're really studying this, maybe our best option is Perrysville. I mean, there are other options, but I don't know that they're any better than Perrysville. But if we just bring it down to the two, I have to lean towards the Perrysville side right now.
I think that's a fair assessment.
The other side of the coin is, whatever the solution is, it's been said it's temporary regardless
Right,
of
it's
the
temporary.
choice.
we all agree to that.
I think our goal
Right.
is to move forward with
Yes,
new facilities.
but that was my question was, if that is true and the council sets forth a budget to build 2 new ambulance stations that are functional but modest in design, whether or not it follows the plans that we've developed or not, and whether it's a design build, someone else designs a totally different footprint, based on need only and functionality, how does that, is that a public bid for the project, or is that, can we just hire someone for professional services? How does that go?
what I
Because
would-
that's a critical in getting something up before winter.
Tonight, I would like to find a temporary solution.
Yeah.
And then we can have maybe another joint session or a work session with just a couple commissioners or a couple council members to discuss the long-term situation, because I don't think we have enough time tonight. I know you guys have a commissioners meeting afterwards to discuss. That is something that needs to be done now. We need to come up with a plan for permanent buildings. But right now, we've got to give Julie some answers so she knows where she's going. So.
Question though, when you say that council's willing to build or provide the monies to build a station, whatever whether it's a 300,000 or $1 million, regardless, somewhere in between, when are those monies going to be made available?
It's my understanding they're available immediately.
I mean, if we have a
Next month.
plan, they can be available anytime we vote on them. There's
Next
nothing
month.
in an account sitting right there earmarked for it, but, I mean, if someone comes in with a 2-bedroom, 1.5 bath, with a living quarter and then a desk area, with a washer and dryer and the heated garage, we could probably get it done in the next month, the
Well,
approval for
there's
the
my-
funds.
There's my point. If we are looking at building something, and if it's something that's not been the recommendation of the ambulance committee today, something that's a cut down version of whatever the last version was, and we can do that in a 6-month period, then really are we wanting to go to the extent of moving this ambulance service for a 6-month period or a 9-month period?
Are we willing to
Sometime
make an
before that.
investment in a property that's 3 to 4 times expensive as
I don't
anything
know that
else
we need to make that
for a
investment,
6
that's
month?
what it is. Can we not come up with allow things to status quo, basically? Because you're looking at
No.
you're looking,
I don't know if we can guarantee to have that done in 6 months, because I think we're gonna have, it needs to be done, but are we gonna guarantee ourselves that and risk coming into December and saying, hey, we don't have a heated garage? We have snow in November, what happens now? I
but
mean,
apparently we can do this in 2 weeks, so apparently we would either know we can do it or we can't do it. If it can be done in 2 weeks now, it can be done in 2 weeks later.
what can be done in 2 weeks?
The renovation of Perryville.
3 weeks, that'd be 3 weeks,
Yeah, 3 weeks.
first week of July.
His schedule stands.
I was only
currently.
50% off.
As his schedule stands currently, he can drop what he's doing and
Yeah.
continue, complete it in 3 weeks. If that changes, he may have other things that come up as a contractor.
I
So he may
would-
not be able to do that.
I would consider leasing it for 1 month until they got the Perryville station done,
Well,
but that
I
would be
don't
my
know that
max.
they're-
Yeah.
That's not necessarily.
I mean,
agreement,
that-
but-
At least in Cayuga.
Mhm.
Well, if you would be willing to do it for 1 month, why don't you just do it for the time where
I
the
don't-
transition?
Tim, the house is out.
What?
The house is out. There's nobody
Okay,
on
but
there.
I understand where you're going, but I'm
Well,
just trying to bring a logical answer.
We got
of
a
set
great
prices.
answer right here in Perrysville, and we're gonna help them, and we're gonna help us at the same time, in a temporary solution. It's simple. Buying that house is just crazy to me, really.
I made the option of leasing it. You had a set cost every month, a smooth transition. You got time to invest in the future of what you're gonna do, and you have time for a minimum of $18,000. I gave you a set cost other than, your utilities and stuff like that. But you could actually have time, and you got a set cost. Everything you're doing right now, you have no hard date on it.
They have a hard price on 25,000. I mean, well, 49,000. I think it was 49,500 or 49,500. I mean, so I don't know.
So that's what I'm saying. You take
But-
50,000 versus
It's 25 to
18,000.
the
It's
county.
25 because they would get their lit tax money. That as long as the council appropriates that again, it's 25,000 there. And like Kelly said, I would just echo everything you said, Kelly. I think it's just spot on.
I have no problem with, I just want this to be smooth. If you guys come up with a solution that makes this very smooth and there's no hiccups and there's no big issues, I just provided a solution to it that's a simple solution. Whether you like Mr. Eric, I think we have a major problem with that anyway, but the
Are
best.
you referring to me, Tim?
No, I'm
Let's-
saying
let's
anybody.
get by
Anybody wants
that.
to
I'm
say
just
it.
asking.
Anybody wants to claim it, go ahead.
I'm just asking.
I'm saying, what I'm saying is, that I looked beyond that, and I looked at what was a simple solution, that's smooth transition, and you got a set cost. And I think if you really look at it that way, and providing it to Cayuga, I still think Cayuga Station will stay there.
Disagree.
That's fine.
Perrysville will be ready before
That's fine.
Cayuga will be ready.
Do what?
Perrysville can be ready before Cayuga
What do you mean
for
Cayuga?
getting a place for an ambulance. You're gonna have to build a garage.
Brent, do you
That's
see
a whole nother
any,
issue,
do you
another
see any
discussion.
hiccups with the ambulance being at your facility? I assume not, because last time you were at our commissioners meeting, you lined everything out for us, and I felt very confident in your proposal a month
I
ago.
don't see
Are-
any issue whatsoever.
Are all your bays full currently?
Currently, yes.
Okay.
But I have a truck getting ready to go out to get one replaced. When it comes back in, we have a truck that is leaving. So we'll
Okay.
have one open bay with 12 foot.
Okay, so that answers my question.
And that truck would be parked outside now.
Right.
So if we're going a different direction, which is fine, I mean, we're here to make agreements, and if we disagree, we disagree, we agree, we don't, whatever, but, I mean, how is this transition gonna happen? You guys came up with solutions to this, so who's taking care of all this management and all this transition and planning, and who's putting in all the time, and who's gonna be taking care of overseeing that project?
Well, was it not my understanding that Mark O'Hara's kind of been heading a lot of this ambulance stuff up, is that?
I don't think you have that responsibility.
Okay, all right, well, I mean,
Well-
This is more than what Mark
Yep,
bought into for this type of operation.
so,
okay.
Well, let me just say this. You guys are all elected officials,
He's not
paid
elected.
officials.
He's not elected.
I know, elected and paid officials. You have a job responsibility to do.
job description, Rick, it's not in my.
I'm not talking to you, Mark, but I'm just saying, I get tired of passing the buck. Commissioners are to be doing the job, and we appropriate it.
right.
That's the way it is. We disagreed with you. We're giving you another option. We want you to pursue that. We're not telling you to do it. You don't have to.
Right, we don't.
But everybody's going to know that you guys chose not to do it. So one of you three need to do it.
Rick, I'd be more than happy to do it. At the last commissioners meeting, I was
Okay.
fulfilled
So
to
we
do
got
that.
somebody's going to do it, and we're going to appropriate it.
If was
I mean, this bickering is
There's public discussion.
it is public discussion, and I'm tired of the battering going back and forth between the commissioners and us and everybody else. We have a job to do, just like I told you when you called me that this ambulance service, I said, well, then we got to bust our butts to get this fixed.
That's right. That's right.
And we have gone 3 months now, and we don't have a solution. I think that's not acceptable to me.
Well, we provided solutions.
You
and
have one,
we're
but
not
we
the ones who
disagree
decide.
with
This
how
is
we're going to
fine.
fund it.
This is fine.
Right. So now we have an option. We have lots of options, but what are the best options? I think we've come up with it. But my goodness, gentlemen and ladies, let's get it done. We've been here for an hour and 15 minutes and we can't make a decision.
And for a permanent solution, I think we all agree that we're not gonna build anything over maybe, what, 300,000
Well,
building?
it's
We don't
going to
know
be
that.
more than
We
that,
don't know
Kelly.
that.
It's going to be more than that, I can tell you
That'll
that.
have to be another night.
Yeah, but that's another night. But we need to make a decision tonight, and we have two options, what sounds like to me.
As a council, we appropriated $150,000 into an account for the ambulance service. We can take some of that money and vote tonight to allow the commissioners to use that money to proceed with a temporary solution. We need to set a dollar amount on that maximum amount, and then we can advertise a reduction in appropriation for the remaining amount. If we choose the Perryville option, they will also need either some money for supplies, for some furnishings, things like that. We could set it at, say, the $40,000 or $50,000 for them to have an allowance to either negotiate either a lease for 1 month, or to have some leeway in some kind of setup for the next 3 weeks until the Perryville is ready to go. We do have that ability as the council, that we can give them the agreeance to use up to a certain amount tonight to allow them to proceed with.
Do you have the 25,000 for your end, or is that gonna be on next year's?
Yeah, I guess which year are you talking?
I would prefer to do it out of next year.
So
Okay.
we'd have to
So
fund
when
the
you
whole
do the
thing
50
and then give you 25 less.
And then at budget
What I
time?
have set aside now is currently going to repair one of our units.
Okay,
Okay.
so then
Don't
it needs
matter.
to be the 50 plus the additional amount they will need for furnishings or supplies or.
Is there any other costs?
No? Okay.
50 or 49.5 was a full quote for complete renovation for that. Yeah.
What about like excess, like if they're using more electricity than you're used to paying for, you guys don't have the money for overages on that, do you? I mean, you're
No.
looking at water,
There
excess
would be an
water.
additional charge as
So-
far as the small amount.
Beds, stuff like that.
So we would need to have 2 twin XL beds, correct? Like, none of this is included, and correct me if it ends up
This
being
is
Okay.
the facility.
either dressers or some kind of shelving for the 2 ambulance, the personnel. We needed 2 recliners or a couch and some kind of desk area, correct? If I'm wrong in understanding the needs.
Doesn't the county have desks and shelves and surplus?
I've got shelves and desks and filing cabinets from the jail renovation still stored over at Verizon, trying to get it out.
Okay. So we can maybe get some of that moved over. We can probably get some twin beds put in place. And from the council side, I'm sure a few of us are willing to help out in any way we need. RJ, you said you're willing to take it from the commissioner's side.
I can, as long as the majority of the commissioners approve. I will take the lead on this and work with Brent and Julie on that, as long as that's the blessing of the county.
And then we can try to, as far as a short-term facility, obviously it's not going to be July 1.
We would probably find a way to get that house in there. We have restroom facilities, we do not have shower facility.
Okay.
But you would have to provide beds for them or something along those lines.
Does the Clinton,
I talked to the guy, said they never took a shower when they was at the ambulance because they was afraid there was gonna be a call.
oh,
They wouldn't.
No, they take showers.
Do they? Well, he didn't.
I never took a shower,
Does the
but I
Clinton-
didn't work it that much.
the current Clinton facility, is there room there to house an additional 2 people for right now at the Clinton? At Clinton for night? Is there the possibility of putting them there for 2 weeks?
They have 2 spare bedrooms, so if they need to stage north and then sleep south, they can do that.
At the firehouse or the current facility they're in now?
The current facility, the firehouse, no.
Okay, so the current facility, you'd be able to sleep them there for a couple nights, and then, if need be, could they stop at the jail, Mike, and like use the restroom or take a
Absolutely, yeah.
shower or something, like if they're in the north end? Can we find them? I know it's not ideal for 2 weeks, but
So stage at the jail and then sleep at the
in Clinton.
Clinton station.
Yeah, that way there would still be coverage north of 36 with citizens. It's good.
So we have our meeting room, conference room is used on Monday nights and Wednesday nights for the class, but it's over by 10 o'clock p.m.
Or we
They could stay there if they wanted to.
And
It's
we-
heated, air conditioned.
stage them here at the courthouse in the basement and allow them access here. I don't know, I think there's something, or maybe the library has the options for the temporary. We'll get in contact with the library to see what kind of daytime options they might have. It would just be the sleeping for 2 weeks until we got.
Going back to the original thing, I think that we're all on the same page early. We're just going to a phase that we need to get through to get to what we really want.
I think
We've
we
all
would-
agreed there's going to be new facilities in the matter, hopefully the next 2 years. We done made decisions. I think we're all together on that. And so this is just one part that we have to work out to get to the final thing that we really want. And it's okay, we get together. It's okay, we disagree, we have differences, and that's part of why we have a board. And so before we move forward, we can make this happen, and we're just going to take some time.
It's going to take some joint working together, and it's not something that's unattainable, but we all have to be willing to work together and give a little. So, as far as the council, is there a recommendation to use part of that $150,000 we have sitting in that budget line item for this temporary solution?
Make a motion to use $50,000 of it anyway.
Well, I need a little bit more than that.
Tell me a number. 55,000?
No, you need
Julie,
more than that.
How much do you need for supplies to order? I know you said you needed to know by today about supplies.
To order everything,
Mhm.
20, I think, if I order it all, maybe it's 28,883.
29. Okay.
Yeah, you're gonna have to cover the utilities at Perryville, so you need to add that money in there too. I mean, I would at least think about it.
For the next 7 months.
Yeah, 7, yeah, you're at 79.
Okay. 50.
Does the 28 include the beds and stuff, or is that just the medical?
Alright, so I have 50,000 for Perrysville. which 25 of that will be reduced in budgets. And then 29 for supplies that Julie needs for both locations. And then, say, 10,000 we'll put in there for utilities for Perrysville, and I think that might be probably an overestimate. And then we'll say 5 for furnishings.
Like what? Huh?
Well, I don't know, like,
All we need's a couple beds.
Let's don't penny pinch it, because you're
rather-
going to be
I'd rather,
other things
as long as
that
they're
gonna pop
reasonable
up.
and things
They
they
don't
pick out.
spend it all, they don't spend it all.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have to turn in.
We have to buy stuff at Clinton Station too.
There might be
with that.
something, yeah, there might be something for Clinton that needs.
Okay.
Well, Kelly, if you're worried, I mean, if I'm delegated to look over this with Brent and Julie, we'll be fiscal with those funds and make sure,
Okay.
you know, if
We're just
my-
making sure you cover the.
Yeah, we'll make
Okay.
sure, and we're not gonna shortchange anything, we'll make sure there's adequate stuff there, so.
Air mattress.
So that's 95,000.
You
No air mattresses. Scott.
So-
I think you heard that.
You're trying to add up what you're needing to get through the next 6 months. You should also probably include 9,000 for the rent for the Clinton Firehouse. It's 1,500 a month as well.
Are we gonna rent the Clinton Firehouse?
Do what?
Are we gonna rent the Clinton Firehouse?
Don't know.
We're working on an agreement.
Well, I don't think we ought to include that tonight, either.
Well, is there this, but Brenton mentioned there's the option to build the garage at
Yes, there
The
is.
other
We can't
station?
really speak out on that right now.
possibly?
There is an option.
There's a thought, when,
Well-
for us to officially say stuff like that, we can't. That decision has been made.
No, there's no decision. I said it's open though.
Yeah.
There's also $1,054 when if we're gonna abandon the present location at Ileana per month, that's gonna have to be accounted for. Or we need to turn around and renegotiate with the hospital the loss of that, or the removal of that section of the premises there.
Are we paying rent anywhere else that we can move, like, combine offices into?
There's some options there, potentially. We could move economic development and 4-H, or Purdue extension down there. We can, and I've looked at the move of emergency management there, but the cost of that is not reasonable given the computer equipment and the amount of radio, the way in which the radios are going to be working in the 3 stations. That's probably not going to be a reasonable possibility for cost-wise.
I don't see it being reasonable to move the county extension office away from the fairgrounds either, so.
Well, those are the only offices, I believe, that we have outside that are outside the courthouse or the ambulance.
How much of a cost is it to move all that equipment?
I'm sorry.
How much of the cost is it to move the equipment for EOC?
Their equipment, it's over $100,000
To move it?
to move equipment, yes.
The
Not
wiring
counting,
and everything, there's a lot of electrical work to go.
not
there's
counting
tons of that.
not counting the
Well,
plans
those
that
are,
they.
those are issues that we can deal with another time.
Or-
You guys got a meeting and we have to find a solution for this right now. So, nothing that involves the north station involves the south station and that makeup of the rent there, but, I guess that's the council's decision. Do you wanna include the extra 9,000 for Clinton or not? It's 95 for all the different things that we're gonna need in the short term for the north station, and 104 if you decide to add in the 9,000 for the south.
And that 95 actually does include supplies for both stations, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Will the
So you're
furniture
gonna
go to the
approve
new
to spend
stations?
102.
What's that?
The furniture gets reused if there's new stations built, eventually, does it like,
Yeah, because we would own it.
I mean, I didn't know.
we just move it
Yeah,
once
I
we're done.
just didn't know if it was part of the deal or not.
So.
You don't
So-
want the air mattress? Your choice, your loss.
You think your construction guys still committed to jump on it?
Just spoke to him last week.
Okay.
Is there room for supplies there at the station? And same thing with Clinton, there's room for supplies there at the fire station.
There may need to be a cabinet, I think there's talking about maybe a cabinet purchase or something like that
I
to
mean-
Clinton
They've
Fire.
got, they have 2 spots for supplies that we can use.
Current cabinet space.
No.
I mean, we've
Room,
heard-
we have to provide shelving.
We've heard through the grapevine about the whole Clinton Fire Department, but commissioners haven't approached us on it, and I know you guys haven't gotten the paperwork or whatever, but, I mean, unfortunately, we're kind of put on the spot with that one, because we don't have the details.
Scott Craig is the one that's overseeing that.
It's been going back and forth between John and Nick and Julie. It was finished this morning or this afternoon, I think. The only issue we were trying to deal with who the tenant was going to be. The terms, I think we've all agreed on last several days.
The only issue was what?
Who the tenant would be.
Okay.
Since it's confusing, since it's going to be occupied by Park
Right.
County EMS, but Remain County is paying the rent. So it created some confusion. So I think we got that all ironed out today.
So Ashley, before you guys take a motion on this for Perryville or whatever location you do, you know, a month ago the commissioners did make a motion and send it to you for the Kega location. John, does that need to be done again before the Perryville application?
Probably.
Because, I mean, because that's the authority of like the commit. I mean, would that need to be done first before you guys approve the funding?
What are you saying about the Kega location?
Like the Perryville, for us to say we're going to go with Perryville, should we have to vote on that before you guys appropriate the $95,000?
Yes.
Oh, for you guys?
Yeah.
I thought you meant for us to vote, and I was like, oh, sorry, I was not
For
following.
the location, anything like the locations, it's in the decision of commissioners, correct?
We can
That's
still
fine.
appropriate it, we'll let you guys.
I just figure if we're here and it's a joint meeting, if we could go ahead and knock it out first and then
No,
do
that's
that.
fine.
With that, whether or not I get a second, I'll make a motion to go with the Perryville location for the ambulance facility with a $50,000 cost, knowing that $25,000 will come out next year's budget for the lit tax for Perryville Fire.
I'll second that.
Discussion. And then specified length of time.
I can amend my motion to say temporary, pending, you know, county workings, whether it's 6 months, a year. I mean, I don't think Perryville has any.
We're not concerned on what the time frame is. We know that it's temporary, but it's not going to be built, but we just want to make sure that there's still service available.
I would suggest
Place
that
station available for the house.
my suggestion would be that whatever the new station is going to look like, that process begins forthwith, without delay, as much as possible.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
obviously
how
there's
much are
laws
you
to follow and such.
Investing in the station, you're approving tonight to spend how much money?
It'll cost the county an additional $25,000.
So how much are you spending, appropriating now to spend in this project up there?
For Perryville, $25,000. Because everything else we'd have a cost anyways.
Okay.
We'd have to buy supplies, we'd have to buy things here and there, we'd have utility cost, and Perryville is willing to take the money that we were already giving them, so it's not an additional cost.
Okay.
We're spending an additional $25,000 over things that we would have spent anyways.
You have a second, Britton, you want to comment?
I guess I didn't hear the motion very well. I'm sorry.
The motion was to go with Perryville Fire Department at the cost of $50,000 to the county. I'm not going to be able to do it verbatim again, but you know, $25,000 will come off their lit tax funding next year, and it'll be a temporary location. I mean, unspecified temporary because we don't know exactly.
I got a second, we're in discussion, so you're free to say what you want to say.
I don't think we can have a motion to oblige their lit tax. That's up to them. So I don't think that can be part of our decision-making process, for one.
One, I just put it in there for the record. That way, there's some record knowing that Perryville, that's part of their agreement. John, is that all right to include that in the?
I don't see that it hurts anything.
Okay.
So we're going to spend $50,000. The motion is to spend $25,000 of county funding and $25,000 of Perryville funding.
At a future date, yes. I mean, yes.
What's your deadline that you can give us?
And that's
The
the
deadline?
extent of the
Do what?
He
motion.
told me last
basically.
week it would be.
Yeah, because the rest of it's fine. I mean,
Hang on a minute, I got a question. What was it again?
He had told us 3 weeks from the date that we gave him to go ahead.
Okay.
Tomorrow?
which will be tonight when you leave here, Brent, right? You'll call Tony tonight.
That'd be July 10th.
Did he, I assume you got a written quote?
Yeah, he
Yes.
does.
Does the written quote include any contingencies for problems, unforeseen circumstances?
I'm sure it does.
And number two, if it comes in well under budget for some reason, like something turned out to be extremely easy, the concrete wasn't hard, whatever, is there any reduction in cost if there's a not what it seemed in that direction as well?
That was a worst-case scenario, kind of a spur-of-the-moment cost to put it all together.
Okay.
He was able to come down, look at the building, we walked through it, discussed what needed to be installed, what needed to take place, and he put that together in about 3 days. I was given about a week to get everything together with insurance company, with regulations, with building permits and all those things.
What is the, a second, I was thinking. Who, this process that's going through, who is going to be the owner and who is going to be paying this bill? Or is the county going to be paying the contractor, or are you going to be paying the contractor?
I would assume that the county would be
Yep.
paying the contractor.
We would have to pay them since we're setting the money aside for it right now. And then
Okay.
come budget time, we will reduce the appropriation that we give them of the $25,000.
One of the things that I expect, and it's customary for any business with the county, is they do have workman's compensation policy, and we'll be able to furnish that workman's compensation policy and current limits on their liability. Can you provide that for the start of the job? Okay.
But I can get it to you.
Additionally, I'm assuming that if the cost of the project is under a certain threshold to require quotes or bids, is that correct? It's under 50,000, or is that the?
50,000. You may want to make this project a $49,000 project.
I think it is, actually.
50,000. What's
49.8
the,
or 48.
Yeah, it's under 50.
what is the threshold before we have to accept 3 bids?
Quotes.
Or quotes?
If my understanding was, in my line of work, it was always 50,000 to
I think it's
75,000 was quotes, or I'm sorry, 50 to
I think
150.
it's 100,000 actually.
Yeah, I think it is 100.
I think we're.
I thought it was bids above 150 for a public works project, but
150 you have to start bidding.
Yeah.
At least 3 bids out of 150. I think at 100 is the other.
So, any other discussion, Britton?
I'm just unsettled with this. I don't like the verbal nature of all this. It's just not, it goes against my nature to do these things like this. It's very loose. I understand the reasoning, that it's still very loose.
Mhm.
And I kind of crawls at me.
Well, unfortunately, you guys got thrown at you. You got us all thrown at us, and
You know, it's something that we started some time ago. It's just, the situation changed in November, and so it's not where I thought it would be today. Anyway.
I do want to say I appreciate Britton what he's done. The situation came up out of the blue. We was at the place where we thought we was going to lose possibly the ambulance service overnight, possibly. We could have lost it. He did a lot of good work with talking.
Yeah, that's neither here or there. But
Well,
anyway.
I can say something good about you if I want. And I appreciate what all the work he did, because he did put a lot of effort into this. So we're going to call for a vote. Or you got anything else to say, Brett?
I guess gosh. No, I really don't. I can ramble if you want that.
Call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Opposed?
Abstain.
Abstain? Motion passed. Is that everything we need to do, John, to?
Completely change the direction you're going.
Yeah, I
So
know,
I'll
we-
think about it over the next day or two.
So I'll just throw this out as a question. So this agreement that you have, purchase agreement, the acceptance of purchase agreement signed on May 23rd, does that need to be changed?
Notify the realtor that we're
Yeah.
not going to
Yeah.
pursue it any further.
So is there earnest money there that needs to be paid?
I don't recall.
No, I don't think so.
It says
There,
2,000.
we are still,
It says $2,000.
Yeah, but I'm
we're
not
still
sure.
obligated to pay
Okay.
the cost of doing what we did to find out the proper information.
Yeah, so there's still an expense.
All right, as far as the council, being that the motion has passed from the commissioners to adopt the temporary solution of Perrysville, Is there a motion to allow them to use part of our previous appropriation for this temporary solution and for supplies and any furnishings they might need and future utilities?
Ashley, will you set a cost on that too?
Um,
Not to exceed?
The 95,000 is, I think will cover absolutely everything,
Okay.
including utilities and furnishings and anything that might come up in the next several months, 6 months probably. The additional 9,000, if we include that in for the city of Clinton, would be 104. But it sounds like there's still some maybe options on that on the table. They have not voted on that actual lease yet, so it's up to the council at their discretion if they want to include the additional 9 right now, or wait until those options are aired in the commissioners meeting.
And whatever the cost of the work at Perrysville is, we split 50-50.
Yes.
If it's 40,000, we spend 20.
That's understanding?
Is that right?
Yep.
Okay. You want to do the honor?
No, I insist.
Okay. You've done all the work on it.
I have.
Well, I'll happily do it.
Okay.
I'll second it.
I'll make a motion, what, 95,000, whatever?
Yep. That's the minimum.
For the Perrysville addition.
Okay.
I'll
Is there a
second the motion.
Alright, I have a motion for Mr. Somerville, a second for Mr. Costello to allow $95,000 of our previous additional appropriation for the ambulance, North Ambulance Station to be used for approximately $29,000 for supplies, $50,000 for the Perrysville build-out, and then $10,000 for utilities and $5,000 for furnishings. With those estimates in mind, the additional would be, or not the additional, but the approval of $95,000. Is there any further discussion? Being none, all those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed state no. All right, motion is approved.
Brent. Call that guy. Right now.
We'll also need to advertise a reduction in appropriation of $55,000 for our next meeting to take that back out from the original. So that'll be on the agenda for the next council meeting.
I'd just like to say thanks to the council for having this joint meeting tonight and working together for a solution. Again, I'd like to second thanks to Brent Lewis for putting this together for Perrysville and Julie Lanzone for coming over and being able to help and put this all together. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you to everybody.
Again, thank you to everyone. Like I said, this is a great partnership with Park County. It's something that's going to set the bar for the counties. The other thing you might not know, but July the 1st there will be a celebration of this, ribbon cutting. We will be informing you of more information about that coming up.
And I would like to apologize for wearing my emotions on my sleeve, but we
I'm glad you did.
did accomplish something tonight in a very so-called reasonable period of time, and something we needed to do.
I think it may start
I
out rough.
appreciate everybody, and if
We
I
intend to get it
offended you,
right.
Mark, I apologize. So, you have done quite a bit of work on this too, along with our attorneys, and so a lot of people to say thank you to. So, I apologize.
So are you guys all done too?
We're done. It's all you know.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Motion adjourned. Thank you all for attending.
Any council members